Hey there, fellow skeptics. Lester the Skeptic Tech here. Going to cover what I've determined as my go-to browser, given that I did a quasi deep dive, or at least my perspective on the browser wars. Not a fully exhaustive look on it, but as I came into contact with that question. So, every browser out there is, at least in my experience and what I've come in contact with, you either have a browser based on what is known as Chromium, which is the open source variant or the basis of what has been known as Google Chrome. So Opera, in this example, is one of the other browsers based on Chromium. Firefox is based on a different model or base. And there are variants. I've demonstrated some of the variants. And the thing with the Chromium source, which a lot of providers, Opera, again, you've got Brave, that's another. Chromium, which is still offered in a what's either called ungoogled or degoogled formats. And everybody, even I would say Microsoft Edge, and people like to say Microsoft is still Gates' baby, although Gates hasn't really been part of that whole Microsoft milieu for however long he's stepped away. I don't know about what you would think about Ballmer, but I think he's been away from the milieu as well. They've got a new CEO. For those who don't know, and I don't know why you don't know, but some things I found with Opera that may be a little Mainly, this, you can't I tried digging for options to show my native, and I'll show what I mean, my native title bars. This is what I have my system title bar arranged like. You got the, instead of the minimize, the square, and the X, I got the red, you would say it's a rip off the Apple format. Oh well, I kind of dig that one, although with the Apple arrangement, it is on the left side, and on the typical right side you would find in Windows or Linux. But anyway, I found a way to mitigate that, and with a lot of the what you would call it, the inability to change the window settings. Not all apps include that, because at least when it comes to that, and I'll show that real quickly, the contextual menu, when you right click, I can move to a different desktop. I can show on multiple or just a single activity. So as you're seeing that, I found that mitigation through the use of Latte, and you guys have seen my stuff on Latte, pretty brief stuff on it. There's a lot I've not explored of late. If I really have a lot of idle time, I suppose I could. But I found, at least for mitigating that lack of option power, I can actually do that with Latte. I can say, move this window to a different desktop. I can even move it to an activity. I can have that. And before I forget, just a quick thing about adding widgets to Latte. I did some funky things in my exploration of Latte. I had removed other widgets I had. You see the little weather widget. I'm going to do something quick about the dictionary. Going to add that. I wasn't sure what to think, so I'm going to just type in a word. And I didn't exactly explore where they draw the definitions from. I think there are settings. So I'm going to go, let's look up the word hypo. Alright. Interesting how they provide that definition. And if I go here, all available dictionaries, and I can actually English, and I'm going to hit apply. Let's see if I can do that. As you can see here, you have many dictionary options here. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to try and type in hypothesis. I'll say more on that later, but I found that interesting. But going right back to opera, I found some interesting parallels between that and Vivaldi. I'll do something here with that. I'll bring up Vivaldi as well. A lot of the Chromium-based browsers, they kind of share features they've added, and so without going too far into it, being a Linux user for as long as I have, and it's not very long, and I'm pretty sure there have been people who have worked with Linux since the inception. Anyway, so I've got Opera on one side, and I'm going to pull up Vivaldi. They've got similar features. They use similar terminology, but you get the idea that they share certain concepts and principles. So the main thing is Vivaldi will use the term panels. Opera uses sidebars. So you can also, I believe you can change the arrangement, but there are some interesting things like Vivaldi. I haven't explored, like I said, with a lot of the features and different applications I've been using throughout. Haven't really explored all the options available, to be honest. But let's go ahead and see if I can, for Vivaldi, let's take that as an example. And there's a lot out there. Tab handling. Show tab thumbnails. Interesting. So Vivaldi has these. I'm going to try to see if there's anything. Interesting. Show tab cycler, minimize active tab. Interesting. All right. So they have panels. This is what they have. And floating panel. Okay, that's interesting. All right. And what Opera calls the sidebar. Similar ideas. Don't know if I would say they're identical, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people say the same. I'm going to try see what that does. The interesting thing about Opera, and one of the reasons why I decided to keep it as my daily driver, even though there were some things driving me nuts. First feature is, let's go ahead and move Vivaldi out of there. It looks like I also have seems alright. It's just a tab. Interesting way of previewing what you've got in the tabs there. But let's expand Vivaldi for a quick second. I'm going to go to a random website. Going to pick one. Let's go to Amazon. Let's go to YouTube. Okay. What I can do here, this is one of the, I don't know what you think about that, but I'm going to just do that. See it. Yep, you're seeing that action. Oh, that didn't exactly work like I wanted. Let's do that here. Yep. That's what I wanted. So you do the split screening. You could do the thing I like about this is if I'm in my middle monitor, as you guys already saw in my keyboard video, I have 3 monitors. And this is one of the things, okay, a wish list. At some point I would like, and I'll give Windows 11 credit for this, is that you do have the window tiling or snapping, as I learned the feature to be identified as back in Windows, I think it's either 7 or 8, which made it more prominent. But it gave you a preview of your windows and how you want each tiling or snapping to be formatted and arranged. So like you could do the 2 window snapping, you could do even a 3 window, and it gave you formatting or window sizing options. Okay, I have to give credit where it's due. Nice job, Windows 11. You know, but it's something I'm not going to cry over. It's like I can, at the same time, it's easy to get enchained by that thought process. Whereas, you know, if you wanted to exercise your own mental nugget, you know, you can resize the windows as you see fit. But as you're seeing here, right here with Vivaldi, or not Vivaldi, but opera. The other thing I grew to like, let's see, is you, and I don't know, some people may say this is a gimmick, but I found this to be convenient, that I can either use the search option. I can technically take a snapshot. I can copy it. Also, I found a suitable extension, and the one thing I did appreciate is that on the extension front, Opera does have a distinction between sidebar extensions versus other extensions. The other thing that I found is that I don't know, some people may feel differently about it, but this saves me a good bit of real estate, whether we're talking about my screen or window in a browser. So like I can go here and peruse social media without it occupying a complete window. I can do it that way. I can choose to keep my sidebar content there. Now, this is what I found. So this is as close to what Vivaldi has natively. Now, you can go through the Opera add-ons repository, or as with a lot of Chromium-based browsers, you can go through the web store. Let me do that from a private window, because I'm just one of those guys that and what I found with Opera, and this is what I was thinking in my mind at the time, you can go to the Chrome web store and look up extensions, and it'll be recognized as Chrome. and it'll say add to Chrome, and of course it'll install. But for those who don't want to go too much into the Chrome Web Store and go through the browser-based repository, if there is one, I could. And I found it. Let's go. I isolated for sidebar. And I went and typed in notes. And it said V7 notes, old school opera. And that was... And interesting that I saw this as an option, which I installed in a copy of Brave I just installed not too long ago. I didn't like this. I didn't like this extension because I appreciated that it tried to give you a sense of organization with respect to notes. It's just that at least with this, I was able to move all of the stock guides and stuff, which is very nice of them to do that. Gives you a nice little walkthrough of the various things you can do with V7 notes. I was able to move them into a folder that I can consolidate, particularly with what I have available. I can either pin this or I can auto hide it. So right now it's auto hidden. But I can technically, if I wanted to, I could pin it, and I can watch things full screen if I'm gonna, for example, watch YouTube. Let's go ahead and, I don't know if I gotta have the, let's see if I want.
I think the Giants actually are doing the right thing for their fans. You know,
if
there's a pecking order. There's an understanding.
Let me go into a video let's watch a little Salty Nerd while I can.
Until Netflix and Amazon are the only two left standing,
and I can,
basically, which we all know is what's going to happen at the end of the day, 10, 15
I can do that.
Yeah, but there's also bandwidth issues to take into consideration.
That's what I'm saying.
The nice thing about it, let me go ahead.
But that's an infrastructure type thing. And with Elon Musk,
let me go back. I like that. So if I wanted to watch, say, like if I'm going to watch a UFC fight and make notes about it, I can. And also, I've found this as well. I can use the old full screen functionality when you hit F11, depending on the keystroke. I think most of the time it's going to be F11, some maybe F10. But I can do this, and I can keep that note stuff available. So like I said, if I'm watching a movie, I can watch a movie on Prime or wherever else. And if I want to do some nerd out and some what you might call analysis, I could. Let me go ahead and do that here. And I can, while I'm immersing myself, I don't have I can still keep that full screen functionality, and I can keep my split screen, which is kind of nice. The other thing too, in terms of my usage and performance, I find that Opera is a little bit more giving in terms of how I don't think it's abusive of the memory it does consume, and that it doesn't seem to take up a lot of my graphical memory, in the sense that my overall desktop navigation can feel as snappy as I remember, and that and I can move in between my work activities. So you can see here, I can do that, I can do this. Let's go back to my streaming activity. And though it's not as native, this note thing, I still think it's, and I think the nice thing about it is I can actually export these notes. Let's see. I can export the notes, and I can save it. I don't have to go through a convoluted way of exporting notes in Vivaldi because, as you've seen in other videos, I believe, that I had to do a quasi workaround. You know, I don't know if it's a feature or if that's standard operating procedure, but when you say export, that means you're going to send it to a destination and you're able to, by virtue of the save button being there, you're able to place it in the destination desired. Whereas, as you might have seen in my other video, I have only open. I have no place of saving my desired item into a desired destination, and that's kind of something that they haven't resolved. The only thing I've noticed so far is crashing of tabs, but I can deal with that. And I've heard in various live streams that tabs have crashed for Firefox users as well, but I think namely YouTube and maybe video, but I could be wrong. So at least for those two features and those two callouts for Opera, and the thing about Opera, let's do a quick look into Opera. My sister is fond of saying follow the money, and let's see, Opera browser. Opera's been around for quite a while. Like I said, my career, high school counselor in high school, they had those installed in the computers in their little section in the classroom they occupied. Opera was very intriguing, and they were. Oh yes, I was looking. I was going to dig up this term here, hypothesis. I'll talk about that in some other video, but this is what I've come across when it came to getting used to Opera and what I've sensed from my performance and reliability. So. Varying definitions. Okay, interesting. Now this one, I'm gonna highlight this one. I like, all right. But in anyway, the placebo effect when it comes to testing trials and what have you, it just feels like Opera is fairly good in terms of like how I perceive my overall reliability and performance. It hasn't affected the operability of my other applications when it comes to multitasking. I haven't really worked out setting up an Opera account. Let's see here about Opera. This is where I was going to go with that. Follow the money. All right. There. Oh. Not bad. Since 95. All right. More than browsers. Okay. Opera's communities. Okay. Switch to Opera. So they have investors. Okay. Opera affiliate. Okay, interesting. Jobs. Built-in messengers. Okay. That makes sense with the sidebars. Press info. Okay, about Opera. Oh, this is just going to be a recycling of that. Apologies. Yeah, so just real quickly for the uninitiated, Opera has been available for multiple platforms Like I said, back in my high school days in the 90s, it was installed in the various Windows computers. I just downloaded a version of the browser on my MacBook. As you're seeing in my Linux environment, I will test it out in my Windows environments to see how that works out. Investor Opera affiliate? What? I'm not one to shill. I'm not saying that they're looking for those jobs. But investors, let's see. Become a partner. At least for other browsing, I guess you would say brands or companies. Okay, they've got earning calls. Interesting. A webcast? Interesting. I might have to look into that. And yes, for those who may not have known, I did dig some digging. I have Microsoft Edge. Yeah, you can scream at me all you want. I have Microsoft Edge installed. And yes, there is a version. I'm going to show you that real quick. It's like one of those in my back pocket kind of solutions. Yeah, I don't know what I feel about Edge. As an old coworker of mine had once said, it's a wannabe Chrome. Especially when I looked at the history of Edge when it was being first peddled around. They try to go on their own, and with a lot of things from Microsoft, they're often too late to the party, like Windows Phone. It's like once they leave the space and they try to re-enter it, it's like, nice try, bro. And it's almost as though they have to resign to... Interesting. There it is. But yes, that's where it is. There is a Linux version available. I don't know if Apple will ever do it, but will it ever release? Nope. They will never release a version of Safari on Linux, and I don't, I've used Safari on my Mac, and I've tried to give it many chances, and I'll probably do another teaser on that. Like I said, whenever I get around to operating my MacBook again, I use it for whenever I am at my friends, and that's part of the perk of doing your work remotely, is that you pretty much do your work anywhere. So, the thing about Opera, at least in a Linux environment, I tested out on my MacBook, and I found that it had the same shenanigans, if you will. Oh, alright. Good to know. So I'm going to go and let's do something live, like right here. I don't know.
If anybody didn't know.
You're going to see
David
something
Nelson
here.
for 199. Hail from the 199 Legion.
It's not consistent enough when it comes to bringing up live video and the live chat. It's like I got to click into an area outside of YouTube and then go back into the live stream. To me, that's not a deal breaker of an issue, but for Linux users, at least for my Slackware installation, can't speak to all Slackware users who have encountered this, but I have to chalk it up to the Chromium-based browsers, is that I had to use something that was installed for Vivaldi, which enabled my live video to work. So I took the file needed to play back that live video content because it wasn't showing, and I will do in another video a comparison with my attempts at using alternatives. But again, this is something that I've found in the last handful of days, that Opera has it vastly improved, and that's one thing that I found in my own experience, also in life, where I've tried one thing, I've walked away from it, and then I've come back to it, or circle back. That's what I'm finding a lot of what I've been doing personally is I've kicked the tires on certain, what you might call goals, and I've circled back. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just forget it once I've set things aside and so forth. Like I'll try this out. Oh, pursue this and pursue that. And opera is one of those types, and I've used opera. I believe in my Windows Mobile days. For sure, in my BlackBerry days, especially when I was using the BlackBerry Storm. Yes. BlackBerry. I don't know if they're relevant. I think there have been some Android-based variants that people still rock. They still like to rock the BlackBerry. But I remember using Opera Touch. That was something I tried using, and I also cover some other things when it comes to choosing your daily driver when it comes to browsers. But this is at least my coming to terms or coming to a conclusion. Don't know about a definitive conclusion, but at least for what I need, this works out for not just my work-related stuff, but for everything else that I might do in the future. Yep. So there you have it. Apologies for being rather long-winded in my explanation, but hope that works out for others in terms of determining, okay, especially for a Linux user, or maybe you would see the features I've highlighted, and there are many others, like, let me see if I can, you can do tab previews, depending on the site that may, like you're seeing right now, like you can do that, and then when I play a video, I can do picture-in-picture in a preview format. So